here at Wolf Gordon with President and CEO, Rick Wolf.
Great to see you, Carol. Welcome to what I call NeoCon 2020, because for the Olympics they made it 2020, so we can do that too. It is 2021 in case anybody's watching and doesn't realize what year it is.
So what's going on? What's happening?
We've spent the last year and a half creating and introducing a lot of new product. A long time coming, and we're really excited to show you the new products we have.
You should be. I'm excited to see them.
Great. So with that, I'll turn you over to our Chief Creative Officer, Mary Beth Shaw.
Okay. Hi, I'm here at Wolf Gordon with Mary Beth Shaw, Chief Creative Officer. You guys have been so busy. Tell us all about it.
It's a pleasure. We have been really busy over the past year and a half. We're excited to be back. We have done a tremendous amount of work on products that are PVC free. This has been a long time coming for wall covering and wall protection. I'd like to first tell you about Claire.
Yeah.
We introduced it about 8 months ago during the pandemic. We already have 14 patterns in this beautiful PVC free Type 2 wall covering that is also bleach cleanable. It's an olefin composite. It's really a step in the right direction.
Yes, it is. Yeah. You guys are always ahead of it, finding new things, new technologies.
We work with our mills,
Yeah.
you know, all the time to try to push it forward.
Yeah.
We also have a very popular product called Rampart, which is a flexible wall protection. This is a 27-yard roll good, which can be completely rolled out under a chair rail for that length. It's also a product that meets all of the stringent testing results of rigid sheet goods. What we're also excited about with Rampart is we have a product called Stronghold. Whether you have like a concrete block wall or a tile wall, you can put Stronghold, a jute and plaster of Paris type of product, completely sustainable, over the rough wall surface, and then add Rampart. And you have a magnificent smooth wall without all the furring out, all the extra cost that is incurred when you're trying to take a rough surface and make it smooth. So the combination of Rampart Resolve and Stronghold is super sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Also, you're making it easy for the designers, the contractors, the builders, everybody, right? So
Absolutely.
Giving them solutions, so that's smart.
And cost effective.
Yeah, that's right.
Next, you know, we've been in the upholstery business for many years now, and we have partnered with GeoSheared, a mill up in Canada, and Coates Group, an international yarn supplier. And we've created, I think, a remarkable upholstery textile called Serona. This product is an inherent antimicrobial fabric. This is completely embedded in the yarn, copper and silver salts, and it comes in this exquisite color line. We see this product fantastic for all vertical markets, certainly healthcare, university, corporate, but also hospitality. You know, it's a wonderful alternative to a coated upholstery, you know, and bleach cleanable, high performing, yeah, everything. A very, very exciting collaboration this year with V-Star. This is the South Florida firm that's headed by Venus Williams. We worked closely with Venus and Sonia Haffey and their team over the past year to develop Muse. This collection is very much inspired by strong women. We have Elena, which is a beautiful matelassé quilted textile. Comes in 4 colorways. This is the big feature. You know, the whole line is filled with movement and joy. You can see very much the spirit of Venus and V-Star in these products. We have Aura, and we've also got Frida. With that, I would like to hand it over to Sonia Haffey to go into more detail on these 3 beautiful patterns.
All right, let's go. I'm here with Sonia Haffey. She's principal at V-Star, and we're going to talk about an amazing new collection. We want to hear all about it, Sonia.
Well, thank you. V-Star is a woman-owned and run firm, and so the collection was inspired around women. And so we have the 3 different patterns, which are Elena, Aura, and Frida. And within these patterns, they were named around women that inspire us. The Elena is the star of the show, of course, and it
Beautiful.
was based around dancing women and joy. This one comes in 4 different colorways.
I love
and
the
this
texture
is
of it,
one
too.
of my favorites. This colorway is named Blush, and all of the color names are based upon women in your tribe, right? So every color name has we, us, or her accented in it.
I love that. That is just so great.
This one in particular, Aura, is named after Venus's mother, who's a major inspiration, and her grandmother. So it's a little bit of a nickname.
So nice.
It's based upon like the DNA of a woman and also nature, because that's another part of going back to your roots as being a woman and the femininity with the curves and the pattern. And the last one I'll tell you about is Frida. This one is based on like the animal instincts of a woman and power behind that, and how just being you and in your DNA and bringing joy is kind of an all-encompassing woman.
Wow. It's great because they tell a story.
They do.
But I love them because they're very feminine and beautiful, but they're also modern and functional, and they're just gorgeous.
Absolutely, and we already are just so excited to be able to use it in a lot of our projects.
Thank you for joining us on this tour at Wolf Gordon. Come and see all the great products. They have some amazing things and a lot of firsts, so you want to come and see it. Thank you.
A program like Design Your World is not only going to benefit the kids that are participating, it's going to benefit this industry by changing the entire perspective on what we think design is and how design is practiced.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to DesignTV by SANDOW. I'm Avi Rajagopal, Editor-in-Chief of Metropolis. We have a very special segment for you today. How can we all fight the climate crisis? Produced in partnership with Interface. I have 2 fantastic guests for you today, both leaders in the sustainability movement. My first guest is Dr. Katherine Wilkinson, an author, strategist, and teacher. Her books on climate include the best-selling anthology, All We Can Save. Dr. Wilkinson leads the All We Can Save project, which she co-founded with Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson in support of women leading on climate. She also co-hosts the fantastic podcast, A Matter of Degrees, telling stories for the climate curious with Dr. Leah Stokes. My second guest for today is Lisa Conway, who is the VP of Sustainability at Interface, the global flooring manufacturer whose mission is climate take back. Today, Lisa and Katherine are going to talk about how all of us get involved in the fight against the climate crisis and what we can each do in our professional capacities. So Katherine and Lisa, I'd love to hear how you both got started in the climate movement. Katherine, maybe you want to start us off.
Sure, Avi, I'd be happy to. Well, I think like a lot of people, I had some really formative educational experiences, some really formative teachers who helped plant the early seeds of this journey for me. Specifically, when I was 16, I spent a semester at this really amazing school called the Outdoor Academy in Western North Carolina. I lived in the woods with 25 kids, and sustainability was a through line in every course, from art to science to literature, in the way we functioned as a community, and also in the ways we engaged kind of beyond the campus. And one of the moments that happened during that time was that I visited a clear cut for the first time. I was from right in town in Atlanta. I had not laid eyes on the ways that kind of the extractive economy can show up in rural communities and on the land. And it was a very kind of politicizing and convicting moment for me, and also a moment of just a lot of sadness. And I had this hand-bound journal that I still have and return to sometimes. And I scrawled in there, I want to help the world be connected to the earth, change the way I live. And that has taken lots of different iterations in the last now more than 2 decades of doing this work in one way or another. But that really kind of set me on a trajectory where I knew that this would somehow be my life's work.
Yeah. Lisa, what was your moment?
Yeah, so a little different. Didn't happen. I think it hit me like a ton of bricks, honestly. I didn't have interest in or knowledge of sustainability until I got to Interface. And I was recruited as a salesperson, and it wasn't really until I got here that I decided to really learn more about the company. I was in my 20s. I wasn't all that deep. But it's not everywhere, or it's not every day that you get somewhere where the company founder has actually written a book. And Ray Anderson, the founder of Interface, his first book was called Mid-Course Correction. And that's when I really realized, kind of along with him, as I read about his spear in the chest moment, kind of had my own, and realized that I didn't want to just sell flooring. I always wanted my career to be meaningful. And I realized really what a gem I stumbled upon being at Interface and getting to live that every day. So very fortunate, but it didn't take long for me to make it about more than just my work life, this climate work.
Lisa, I've only known you as like a sustainability queen, so it's very hard for me to imagine.
Weird, I know. It
Earlier,
weirds
Lisa.
people out. They're like, "Wait, you weren't like the recycling guru when you were 7? What do you mean?"
Lisa, you've had a fantastic year at Interface. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, for somebody who started out not in the sustainability world, you've made some amazing breakthroughs.
Yeah. I used to get excited about, recycled content. It's kind of like where we all start in product manufacturing. That's like, just to watch it go up year after year, you get excited. But in about 4 years ago, we had launched Climate Takeback, which was our mission to reverse global warming. And it wasn't until this past year where we had a product that embodied that I think it really made it sticky, both for our own associates, but then also our customers. Mm-hmm. And that is creating the world's first carbon negative carpet tile, which you think can only happen with purely natural products. Think of things like wool or like hempcrete and things like that. The fact that we could take something that was originally, back 40 years ago at Interface, entirely oil derived, right? And over time, disconnecting us from the virgin oil well, but using those recycled materials, it lowers and lowers and lowers the carbon footprint, but you can't get to carbon storing without the use of bio-based. So now the real innovation is this beautiful combination of old products combined with bio-based materials. So think of agricultural waste and rapidly renewable plants. And that means that every carpet tile that we make actually stores more carbon to make it than is actually emitted to produce the tile. So that means this bodes well for those in the manufacturing community, in the consumer side, B2B side, like we are, doesn't matter. There's always this like, well, how are we going to grow sales, but have a positive impact, right? That means that this is possible for our culture. We're not going to tomorrow turn off the need for new stuff. We still have to reduce. Science is telling us we have to reduce, but science is also telling us, I'm being a scientist here, Katherine, excuse me. I'm taking your role for a second.
I'm delighted, Lisa.
But science is also telling us that we have to make use of this waste carbon that's in the atmosphere. So it's not just about reduction, but also about what we call loving carbon, changing our relationship with carbon, and using it as a resource instead of only treating it as the enemy. Mm-hmm. So that's the exciting innovation. We're gonna ride into the future here.
First of all, congratulations! What an amazing achievement this year. And to go through that journey and finally get to breaking through a barrier that we all thought existed, and then you think about it differently, and you suddenly realize, there's a way to push past it. And Katherine, reading through your book, All We Can Save, it's incredible how many stories there are of women in the climate justice movement who've done just that. Who've thought about a problem in a different way, who've thought about a barrier in a different way, who've taken something that, two systems that were previously considered incompatible, and then found a third way that points a way forward for the climate movement. Tell us about All We Can Save. Tell us about the book, the project, how it came together, and what we're working on now.
Sure. Well, for those who aren't familiar with it, hopefully you will get familiar with it. All We Can Save is an anthology, a collection of essays and poetry and art created by 60 women who, as you said, Avi, are sort of leading in climate in all different ways. The book project really was kind of born out of both inspiration and frustration. So inspiration because there is this incredible community that is rising to meet this moment, right? I think of it as like this great ecosystem of transformation. And there's so much there to celebrate and share the wisdom of and the work of, but also some frustration about how the climate conversation has often been shaped to date. And I think we're seeing a lot of shifts in this, but, a lot of the sort of talking heads and quote unquote thought leaders, who have said, this is how we think about the problem. This is how we think about solutions. Most of them have been men and most of them have been white. And that's great. We want white people and men, everyone on the team. But it takes a kaleidoscope of perspectives, not just from different identities and lived experiences, but skill sets and training and sectors. And like, we can't see something as complex as the climate crisis through a single set of lenses. And so in a lot of ways, All We Can Save is an attempt to create a kaleidoscope that you can keep turning and see something more clearly because you're seeing it through a different set of lenses. And of course, the sort of mission of centering the work and wisdom of women in climate work is bigger than an anthology. If only one book could sort of land and sort things out. But so we're really continuing that work through the All We Can Save project, which is a new baby nonprofit organization. And we're kind of continuing the creative communication work. We're doing some work around education and curriculum. We have All We Can Save reading circles that have now been happening for, we're right at a year from when we launched them. So people coming together into deeper dialogue about the climate crisis, using this book as kind of a jumping off point for some of that relational work that we know is so important in movements for social change. So lots of good stuff, and lots to come, probably, in the great spirit of emergence, things that we don't know yet will be coming. But we know that there has long been a leadership crisis at the heart of the climate crisis, and that it is going to take the biggest and strongest team we can possibly muster to turn this thing around.
I just have to chime in, Avi, because this book is just so, there are so many people working on climate that don't have titles. right? They don't have climate titles. They don't have a sustainability title like mine. And you can see yourself in these women in different ways. You know, there are engineers that in book context are poets, you know, and like there are just so many creative ways that I think women show up for this movement. And I think need to have the confidence that they can do the work, that they're already doing some of the work, and really find those role models that they might not have heard of, you know, because we've been told who the climate heroes are. Yeah. So it's just, I just can't recommend it enough. And it was so refreshing to hear so many different voices within the anthology, instead of just one, you're used to usually kind of one voice.
In a way, it's our way of thinking about leadership also that has brought us to the climate crisis.
Yeah.
Like, we've been content to let people who hold positions of power continue to, you know, do things that they think is best. And, you know, I'll impute them good intentions. You know, I will say, you know, yes, they were going for profit, but they thought profit was a good thing, you know, and we know now that we have to think about leadership differently. Pew Research last year did some polling and found that 2/3 of Americans now say they can feel the effects of climate change in their communities. You know, so we all sense it now. It's become so tangible. It's come close to us. It touches our skin. You know, how do we get started? What do we do?
I think maybe it's uniquely feminine. Maybe it's not. But I like doing this with a buddy or buddies. Catherine's one of my buddies. You know, Stacey Smedley's one of my buddies. You know, Katherine did All We Can Save with Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. I think that we have to have fun. I always say we have to have fun. But really, like, if we don't make this work enjoyable, it's really hard. And I think that, you know, whether it's the book coming together, it's some things that I've done on my side, like the Materials Carbon Action Network, you know, having groups of people that have a shared purpose, I think make the work not only tolerable, but enjoyable. It feels a lot more possible. And I think that we feed off of each other. So, and that kind of actually gets back to your kind of zeroing in on that leadership issue, is that leadership isn't about a single person. Leadership at Interface wasn't only about Ray. We had an awful lot of other people step up, you know, that didn't get the kudos. So, so that's what I would say is we're all in this together, and we all have to do it together. So find your buddies, I guess. Yeah.
I think it's such good advice. And yeah, just on the leadership point, Avi, I totally agree. The leadership crisis is a far beyond the climate movement issue. It is, you know, when we look at virtually every decision-making space, where in almost every decision-making space, we're making climate-related decisions. And we've got still this persistent focus on, you know, short-term profit, prestige, power, things that are not landing us in such a good place at the moment. And I think the counterpoint to that I feel so enlivened by is that I hear so many more people asking, what can I do? How can I help? How can I be part of this work? And that is, to me, that's where possibility lives in all of this. And so I was hearing this question so much that I spent some time thinking about, well, how have I held the question of what can I do? And I published a piece with Time in July with kind of 5 steps for not coming to a definitive and forever answer to that question, because I think the reality is it'll be a question that we live for the rest of our lives, because this work of coming back into balance with the planet's living systems is complex, and it's going to be a long journey. But the first one is to feel your feelings, right? That, like, know from the world's traditions, and increasingly science is also clued into this, right? That we are deeply interconnected. And so, of course, we are feeling the pain that is unfolding on this planet to human and non-human beings. Tap into that, because that is fuel, right? And that is telling us something important. Then it's to scout your superpowers, right? You know, whatever they are, we need them in this work, from hardcore engineers on one side to artists and poets on the other. Are you great at rallying people? Are you great at raising money? Can you tell a good story, right? We need all of it and then some. So really thinking about what superpowers you want to bring to this party. And then surveying solutions. I mean, the amazing thing that was really the fun thing about the work that I did at Project Drawdown was just like getting to swim in this incredible toolbox of solutions that's already in hand, right? This is by and large not a solutions problem. It's a using solutions problem. And so, you know, seeing what's there, Drawdown review, you can download it for free at drawdown.org. Maybe there's an area of climate solutions that's going to really light you up. And then consider your context, right? Climate action is unfolding in companies, communities, cities, countries. What's happening around you that you can plug into? Chances are you've already gotten an invitation that maybe you just haven't taken up yet. And then the last is totally in line with what Lisa's advice was, which is to cultivate a climate squad. If you're facing a planetary crisis, probably best not to go it alone, but also the work is hard, right? And we can feel really small against this really big challenge. And in my experience, it's often that sense of friendship and collaboration and partnership that keeps me going when the work is hard and it feels like, you know, gosh, these are just tiny drops in a massive bucket. And people that you can have fun with. I am like totally here for that. We need a lot of joy in this work, because at the end of the day, you know, we talk a lot about parts per million and, you know, 1.5 degree future. And like, this is just, to me, really about a future that is life-giving, that is more life-giving than the present. And so I'm trying more and more to make sure that the work feels life-giving in the present, to make sure that it's, in integrity and in alignment with the kind of future we're trying to create.
I've had to learn the art of asking for help and understanding that people have to help me. I think that's a general society problem. I think it's also a male problem, you know, and so we all have something we have to unlearn, and like finding buddies, learning how to play in the sandbox with others as we solve this problem, but also relying on each other. You know, Lisa, the Carbon Action Network, you know, Katherine with your reading circles, you know, those kinds of community building things are not beside the point of the climate change movement. Neither are they strategies. In a way, they are the climate change movement, right? And I think that's really, that was the overwhelming sense I get as I read All We Can Save, is just how in every case, it was about finding a group of people, connecting with them, and then using that to find your own purpose and do all the things that you said, Katherine. That's really important. So, you know, I want to pull off one strand from that idea, which is this idea of how we can affect change in our professional lives. You know, those of us who are, you know, in jobs, we often hear climate leaders say every job should be a climate job. And yes, that's absolutely true. At this point in time, if you know, most of our actions are not geared towards, you know, in some way contributing to the fight against the climate crisis, we're gonna still be in trouble. So can we talk about that? You know, what can we do in our professional spheres? And also, how is that different from acting in a personal capacity?
Yeah, I think it can be, and I think that I'll probably say all organizations, certainly at Interface, we can do a better job of making sure that everyone really understands how their role in the organization contributes to our mission in our case. I've seen so many sustainability jobs like all of a sudden, and I know that there's this big movement towards ESG, and I certainly get that in the metrics and the reporting piece. I think that organizations may be wisening to the fact that you're more likely to get applicants for a job that has something meaningful in its title. So are we hiring, sustainable engineers all of a sudden? Or, are we hiring engineers and we just need people to apply? I think there's this reckoning that's happening where people are starting to understand, how important every role is. And I think that if we're going to engage wherever we are, we have to be okay with being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. We have to be okay with not understanding what PPM stands for and ask, right? There's learning the language of carbon is so important, and we need accountants in that. We need HR. We need everybody, poets, all of it, because it's all related. And if we don't talk about it, there have been a few articles that I've read, and Katherine, I think that you might have even been one of the people that they asked, like, what is the one thing that one person can do, to reverse global warming? And it's like, talk about it, for God's sake. Like, yeah, it has to be part of what we talk about more regularly, inside or outside of organizations.
And I think there's a question about the professional piece, which is, do I want to pursue climate from where I am currently in my current org, in my current role? In almost every case, there's a lot of opportunity for that. Yep. And a lot of possibility for that. I think some of that is personal choice about, like, does this feel like an ecosystem that's going to be down with real movement on climate? Am I willing to push an ecosystem that is, digging its heels in? But then there's a question of, do I look to go somewhere where I will be with more of my people, to move things forward. So those are some questions that I think are worth asking. There are a couple of resources that I really like. The Sunrise Movement put out this, it's a quiz, and like it took me back to 17 magazine days, called Green New Careers, greennewcareers.org. And it's fantastic. And it's imagining what our roles could be in the future, but actually they're quite archetypal. And so they're actually helpful in reinforcing for what we can do and be helpful with now. I was very happy that I should still be a communicator in this green new future. And then my former colleagues at Project Drawdown at Drawdown Labs just put out a really great resource called Climate Solutions at Work, which is really helpful, I think, for thinking through a framework of what can happen, particularly within companies, around emissions reductions, obviously, around things like climate disclosures, but also around engagement and collaboration and policy advocacy and products and partnerships and procurement and financing and investment and business model transformation. And like, you get a sense very quickly of how many footholds there can be within an organization, within a company. And a lot of those are, footholds that we haven't been thinking about. Like, Lisa, you mentioned HR, right? Well, what if HR started to move towards like climate supporting benefits packages, right? What would that look like? What happens when we treat organizations as incredible spaces for the kinds of conversations you're talking about, Lisa, and also for education, right? This is something that Interface, I think, has done such amazing work on, right? We need literacy around this stuff to start, skyrocketing. Well, organizations are made for that. So all that to say, I don't think there is a simple answer, but I think the abundance of answers means that there's something there for everybody.
And it's your quote, Katherine, isn't it? If we're going to change everything, we need everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things people can do is really like help articulate how what they do every day contributes or can contribute to climate action. So something that everyone can take on.
Thank you so much, Lisa and Katherine. I'm gonna plug some things here. If you want to get involved with the All We Can Save project, allwecansave.earth. That's allwecansave.earth. Go ahead, join a reading circle, get involved with the movement. It's a great place to start. Interface's Carbon Love and Learns are a fantastic resource where incidentally, they actually use your book, Katherine, as part of the process. But please, if you're in the design industries, you're watching this or listening to this, if you're in architecture, interior design, any of the allied professions, Interface's Carbon Love and Learns, I would definitely recommend that. Yeah. If you're in interior design in particular, we've just launched the Interior Design Pledge for Positive Impact. It's a great way for you to articulate sort of a commitment to climate, health, and equity. Please check that out. That's on Metropolis's website, metropolismag.com/interior-design-pledge. But similarly, in almost every profession in the building industry, architects have the 2030 commitment and the AI 2030 challenge. Structural engineers have your own 2030 commitment. In the building industry, almost everyone has something that they can look to as a North Star. And then outside of the building industry, look for those frameworks either within your organization or within your professional associations. That's another powerful source of camaraderie, community, and networking in the fight for climate justice. Thank you so much, Lisa and Katherine, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. I hope you have a great day. Go do something. Go save something. Save us all.
No pressure.
Great to be with you, Avi.
Yeah, thank you, Avi.
Hi, I'm Matthew Patrick Smyth, and welcome to my home. I have clients all over the world, and every project's different. Every client's different. Every location is different. So I try to bring a uniqueness to each one. A lot of times it's where they are plays a big factor in how I design the space and what I find for them and how they live. That's a fun part of the process for me, is trying to figure out what's the best solution for this location and this environment. When I found my house, it was about 5 years ago, and it was a 1970s house. It wasn't something I was looking for, I just stumbled upon it. And what I was taken with was the sense of place, where it was located, the geography, the mountains, being in the woods. So when I started designing the house, I had to take that into consideration, what it was going to be like to live here for 4 seasons. When I meet with a new client and we're starting a new project, we really do start from the front door. The color of the house, the architecture outside the house, that all leads you into the house, and that's part of the process. That's the domino effect of design. I love working with architects, and I love working with landscape designers. I love working with professionals in general. And also I believe that as an interior designer, you're sort of like a director in a movie. You're just bringing in all the sources. You have to bring the best people together, and you have to let them do what they do. Everything comes into consideration. You have to balance so many different elements when you're designing a home, and take into account the location, the geography, the light, and every project's unique. I remember working on a project. I was in New York and the project was in San Francisco, and the colors in New York looked great, and then I got out to San Francisco and the light coming off the bay was so different. And I always encourage designers to travel and see what the world is like because it influences everything you do. You start picking up subconsciously cultural trends and traditions that you can bring to every client into various projects. So I've spent a lot of time in Geneva or Paris or London or New York or upstate New York. I try to spend some time there and take in what makes that area so unique and how can I incorporate this into the home.